Thank you so much for joining us for this show. Today's topic and today's lesson on life is the Prince in Me, what it means to be a man. Welcome to the panel, Pastor Ray Johnson of Calvary Revival Church and Peninsula, Pastor Sylvester Silver, pastor at Gates of Heaven, Church of God in Christ, and also Mr. Cedric Garrett and Mr. Brandon Brooms. Welcome, gentlemen. Again, today's topic is about the Prince in Me. If you note, I didn't call this the King in Me. I think there's too many people out there who want to be the king, but I want to put this out. There's only one king. And so today we're going to talk about the Prince, because I want all of us to take our rightful place in the kingdom so that we can love each other, so that we can respect each other. And so I'm honored to have these wonderful people around the table with me who will share with you their expertise, their experience, and I believe that they have something that they can bring to you. I work with a lot of women and men, and some of the men seem to be a little misguided about what it means to be a man, and the journey that it takes really to get there. Am I a man at 7 when I'm told that you're the man of the house? So when I'm gone, you're supposed to take care of things. Am I a man because I know how to fight? So I beat that other guy, so does that make me a man? Was I a man when I first had sex or lost my virginity? Does that make me a man? Am I a man because of my age, my legal age? Does that make you a man? Let's go to our panelists. Our first question is, from a spiritual perspective, what does it mean to be a man?
Well, Dr. Perry, it's great that you would ask that question. And let me just first say thank you for being a woman who has men on the panel and you're asking men.
Thank you.
I just think that is good and exciting that you do that. But when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, David was a man's man in the Bible. And David was a man after God's own heart, the scripture says. And one of the things he said is he was getting ready to kind of transition and go be with the Lord. And his son Solomon was coming to the throne. He said, I'm getting ready to die, basically. He says, I want you to do these 4 things. And the scripture there in 2 Kings chapter 2 and verse 3 says, if you do these 5 things, Israel will never lack leadership and never lack strong man leadership.
Wonderful.
And so he begins to just say simply, if you will honor God, obey his commandments, keep his word, if you walk with integrity, take responsibility, and mean what you say and say what you mean, those things will then communicate that you're a man.
Definitely. I love that. Thank you, Pastor Ray. And so I'll move over here to my left and I ask you all, in today's modern society, what seems to be this definition of manhood?
When I look outside at the men nowadays, I feel like they're more focused on what they want people to see, instead of what they should be. It's really sexuality, and it's really, when you look at me, how do you see that I look to you? Is it my car? Is it my money? My stature? Is it because I'm big and strong?
And kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I definitely agree that status is one of the things that men seem to be focused on, and how they look to the world. Like if you go to Facebook, Twitter, you pretty much see all the posts are and pictures are pretty much look what I have, look at me. And pretty much just wanting the attention. They're seeking something from a worldly standpoint that they really don't have spiritually, and trying to live a life that is pleasing to God is kind of hard when your focus is mainly on the outside.
And we want to always applaud those who are being fathers, those who are working, those who are living right. You are out there and we applaud you. We say thank you. But there's also too many people who are walking away from their families, too many people who aren't standing up to their responsibilities. And that's what this really is about, how to encourage those men. What's important to men today?
I think the same thing in actuality is that's important to men have always been. To be a provider for the home, to be accepted in the community. Those are the things that are important to men, and yet how we go about attaining those things are just totally different. My grandfather raised me. My grandfather was born 1887.
Wow.
Right out of slavery, and he said he could still hear the hounds howling at night. But right out of slavery, and there are certain values that he put in me that will not go away. I never thought of leaving my family.
Okay.
Never thought of not providing. You know,
Yeah.
and I think what we have to do now as men, we have to pour into our men.
Yes.
You know, let them know that the things that they're doing and things that they are reaching for is not acceptable. You know, that don't make you a man. I think that's where we missed it at. My grandfather was a strong Baptist deacon when, you know.
We know about that.
It was
Not doing anything.
you know, the Bible carrying, we on Sunday morning, and I said, you know, I would never, and here I am, pastor.
Right,
But,
that's how we do. Instilling those values and making sure that young people have structure, that they have something on the inside, that they have some values. I always say, you know, it's good when you're raised in the church, because when you get a little bit older, you have a song in your heart. So when times get difficult, you're not singing necessarily all just Drake or Jay-Z or whoever, that you know a little bit of victory is mine. And so it's important to have a little something, some values on the inside. Definitely. Thank you.
Well, you know, to answer your question, Dr. Perry, you said, what is it that men are looking for? I don't think there's a man that's alive today that does not crave respect.
Beautiful.
Men want to be respected in terms of what they do, in regards to who they are.
Okay.
And I think that what we see societally today and the negative images that men face kind of removes respect away from a man.
Wow.
And something that Pastor here said that is critically important is that it takes a man to develop a man.
Beautiful.
Men are developed by what they see in terms of imagery.
Okay.
And so a lot of times it's not so much what the grandfather says, but it's what the grandfather does. And the 12-year-old boy is watching the 45, 65-year-old man. In our ministry, I always teach all the time, every 20-year-old man needs a man that's 40, one that's 40 needs one that's 60, one that's 60 needs one that's 80. You need somebody a generation or two ahead of you that kind of shows you more than talking about it. He shows you what it's like. And all men are moved by respect. It becomes difficult for ladies a lot because ladies are often moved by, you know, the emotions of how they feel in situations. Men are still moved by that as well, but I don't care too much about how you feel about me, but you're going to respect me. And men are moved by respect.
Come over here to Cedric and Brandon, because you guys, you know, probably are more part of the generations where, you know, yes, fathers were still doing what they're supposed to do, but you sort of came into the world when a lot of fathers weren't doing a little bit. But here you are. Here you are doing great things, you know, married with families, trying to live this thing. And so for you, what do you see? What does it take to be a man, and how do you get there in this modern society, in this world?
Well, let me say that I was raised by a single mother. I didn't know my father. I met my father one time, and he was on his deathbed. And my grandfathers played a great role in my life too. I had one grandfather who pushed education, one grandfather who was a deacon and pushed Christianity.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm a father today, and when I see my son, I see so much of me and my grandfather's in my son, and I want to make sure that he understands that, you know, even though he's 4 years old, he's learning. I'm building him up as my grandfathers helped build me up. But it's hard to not know your father. You know, and it's hard for some males to overcome that pain. And I feel like where I work with a lot of single mothers, and I see young boys who don't understand why their father is not there.
Exactly.
And so when I say you can't overcome it, for some men who do have kids, they don't understand that pain until they have a child.
Exactly.
And you say, where was my father? And they're thinking to themselves, well, maybe if my father wasn't there, it's just empty.
What
So
do I do?
What do I do?
You know, how do I
Exactly.
be a father?
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So, but if you could find some role models or some mentors like I had to help you hone in on that power you have, you can change it, and you can be resilient, and you can make a difference.
I would say you get there by first realizing that you can't get there by yourself. And whether your father or your mother is there, God is always going to be there. I grew up in a single parent household with my mom, and you know, me having a granddad that owned his own business, he taught me a lot of his values, and he pretty much showed me the way. My dad was in the picture, but you know, I wasn't always able to be with him. And when you don't have that father figure in the household, like you were saying, there's no way that you have that leadership. So I was raised by my mom, and she's teaching me the way she wants to teach me. Like you were saying, it takes a man to help develop a man. And not having that, you know, you have to lean and depend on sometimes your friends. So therefore, you end up in the streets, and you have a mindset of survive by any means necessary, whether it takes selling drugs, smoking some weed just to seem cool, because you
trying to find your way.
Yeah, trying to find your way, trying to fit in. But to go back, to come out of that, me personally, it took me to acknowledge that I needed to change.
Thank you. See, this is why I have y'all on the panel, because I knew you would just add different perspectives, and I love it. I hope you have your young men, your brothers, your uncles, fathers that you're watching, because I want you to be empowered by these men and this message for today. I'm getting so excited. I'm probably going to just go off a schedule. But I want us to go into something funny here, something I wrote in. I want you to tell some of the women out there, what are some of the normal man things? And I ask you to tell me this because I think for many women, and especially women who were raised in maybe single family homes, they're not used to being around men. And so I see women all the time who are in and out of relationships because a man not necessarily raises his voice, but speaks in his man tone, as I call it. And she's like, why are you yelling at me? And, he's not yelling. That's just how a man speaks. And so, but if you've never had father around, you've never been really around men on a day-to-day basis, you don't know some of those things. I had a student tell me just a few weeks ago, her father was useless. And I was just so thrown back because she's probably about 40 something. And until this moment, this interaction with me, I had to help her to understand how useful her father was. But for all those years, she said, I never saw him do a thing. I never saw him do anything. My mom did everything. So whether it is that family or it's a single parent family, we are losing some respect. And I need some of the women to understand what it takes and what it means to be a man. And sometimes to see that. If you haven't had a man around, men do things different.
Yeah.
Women do things different. But if you're not used to being around a man, it could throw you and it could totally mess up dating for you or maintaining your marriage and you being successful in life because you don't know that there are just some things that we do differently. And so I have mine. So from you, take a second and just think of things you would want women to know about men.
Well, my wife.
Don't get in trouble now.
No, but my wife has always, because before becoming full-time minister, I worked. And she has always put me in the forefront of our kids. She has always done that. She's my childhood sweetheart, and it was always your dad did this. Whatever is brought into the home, your dad is working. He's doing this. He's doing that. Always that was done. And I think a lot of time in a home, that's what's missing. The kid only see what mom does, and that sort of thing, and their mom have to share some of that. She have to. Your dad did this. Mothers have to put the husband in a better light. A lot of time we're working and we come home, we're beat, and that sort of thing. So the mom has to,
Yeah.
I think that's what definitely happened. And the young lady who I was talking about who said her father was useless, I educated her about pillow talk. Okay, if you don't know what pillow talk is, that is when a man and a woman behind closed doors, they're making great decisions. Okay? It is where a woman influences her husband it is just some great conversations. And what children don't see is that they're doing some things. They're creating new plans. They're creating goals for the family. They're talking about who's going to work and who's going to pick up the kids and who's going to do this, that, and the other. And although kids may not see that, dad's in on that decision. And because men do, especially traditional sense, have done a lot of the working, long hours, maybe in the evening, sometimes kids don't see that. And so it's important for us to highlight that there's always two. Okay, we just do things, again, a little bit differently. Anybody else want to share?
Well, it's interesting that Pastor would share that men, in addition to respect, I would say men want to be honored, and so making sure that the husband or father has that primary position within the home. So a lot of times, and I live with women in my house, as you well know. I have 4 daughters, my wife, and umpteen aunts, and so I've been around women a lot. I understand how women think, how they process. But my wife would always make sure that before decisions were made, she would always say, we need to check with your father. Now, what you hear today is you hear, well, we're going to do whatever your mother says. Now, in a house full of women, my wife would always say, we're going to wait until we check with your father.
Beautiful.
What does your father have to say?
Beautiful.
Let's hear what he wants to do. And let's see how he wants to do it. wants to do it. And when you talk about pillow talk, I just think that is so interesting because you certainly, haven't been married as long as you have, understand when men get decisions made.
Yeah.
We make decisions in those moments because of what our end goal and objective is. I know that this is a rated G show, but what I would say is the right time to communicate is not when we come in from 12 hours of working. It's definitely not at the time when it's Sunday afternoon when there are 3 or 4 games that we're watching. So pillow talk time is a good time. Dinner time is a good time. Those moments when we're ready to kind of take the mask off and kind of lay down for the day.
Exactly.
You said some things that men need. Don't mess with his car, his remote, or his food stash.
You hear
Those
that?
things are
Yeah.
critically important. I just want to help a man.
It's in
watch
Exactly.
It's in the nightstand.
Okay.
in the nightstand.
This is really help a woman out, okay? This will help your relationship, okay? Young men, you have anything you want to add?
I just want to add one thing to what you said.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with the football
Yeah.
and the food stash.
Yeah.
One thing for me is that when I talk to my wife and I let her know that I'm going to the barbershop, it's a 95% chance I'll be talking to you later.
Yes.
Because when I get a chance to fellowship with other men, it's so
Yes.
awesome when we
Yeah.
can just talk about and establish and how we can network. So when I'm at the barbershop, she already knows I'll talk to you in maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's your time.
Yeah, that's my time.
Okay, I love it. Okay, Brandon?
I pretty much nailed that. I can say that, man, we like to be able to focus on what we're doing. If we put our minds to something, we want to be able to do it and not be, distracted. I know me personally, I don't like being distracted when I'm trying to make music, when I'm doing my homework. I just want to sometimes have that little peace, that quiet time.
Peace.
So, I that's all I got to say about it. They pretty much nailed the football. And, no conversation can happen while you're watching the game.
But it's hard.
It's going in one ear out the other.
And then you wonder why he didn't take out the trash because he didn't hear you because the game was on, okay? So I have just a couple, okay? And a couple of them you actually said, but the first one, the number one, is don't give orders when a man comes into the room. As soon as a man gets off from work, I always say, give 10 to 30 minutes, okay? Everyone really should have that, but especially men. Men don't like honey-do lists at the door. Don't always be negative. Some men tell me that, my wife or my girlfriend seems a little bit negative. Well, men don't really dwell on the negative. And I want to empower the women right now for a second to let you know, when you're trying to move forward on a goal or something in your marriage or in your relationship, coming at him in a negative way will not help your cause. And you being negative all the time is not going to get you heard. You put a little sugar on top. You try to get yourself in order, whatever that takes. Get yourself in a place where you're good. Sometimes you need to go talk to a girlfriend before you talk to your husband or your wife, because maybe some of that stuff that comes out is really not about him. It's not really about the relationship. Some of that is about you. Yeah. I'm not saying you need to talk to a counselor, but sometimes you need to talk to somebody else before you take it into that relationship, because then you will make it about the relationship and it's not. I'm just saying, okay?
Yeah, we need music.
Now, last thing I gotta say, now ladies, I'm a woman, so I firmly believe in this. Don't walk around in those stained, holy nightgowns. That's not sexy. Okay, so helping the men out, because earlier I think someone said, men are visual. He ain't saying you gotta be perfect. He's not saying you gotta be beautiful all the time because he thinks you're beautiful, or else he wouldn't be with you. Right. However, put some lotion on that ash, okay? Put some smell good on every once in a while. Just because you got them, now you got to keep them. I want to come back and just say thank you again to all our panelists for being here. The last thing I want to ask you, as we have a call to action to all the young men that are watching this show, how can we encourage these young men, these husbands, these fathers, to be better men? And anyone can answer this question.
Well, I think the first thing is to ensure that men receive honor, always create models, and make sure that we kind of direct men to where resources are, where you can be served, whether that's the community group, your local church, or the uncle in the family. And ensuring that there is a model of accountability in the life of a young man. Oftentimes, young men want to be heard as well, just like senior men want to be heard.
Exactly.
So when a young man is heard, he knows now that you care, and they care more about what you say than how you say it.
Exactly. Anyone else?
I would just say close your circle. Don't have a huge circle. Everybody's not going to be doing the same thing that you're doing. You got to get with people who's trying to do the right thing and who's going in a positive direction, who wants to, who sees themselves being somebody.
Exactly.
Like, you can't hang around with people that's still in the club if you don't want a club anymore.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for watching this segment of It's Life Changing. We'll be right back. It's time now for me to speak into your life. We've been talking today about the Prince in me, what it means to be a man. Young men, older men, this is not about your age. This is not about your background. This is not about your degrees. This is not about your titles. I'm just speaking to men in general, those who need to hear a word of empowerment. You heard our awesome panel of men tell you and share with you their experience. You heard them tell you about what it means to be a father, what it means to be a man. You heard them talk about their experiences from childhood. But now I want to tell you a few things from my heart. So when I look at you, I not only see your potential. I said Prince because we have so many men who want to be the king. And I want you to understand again that we have one king. And sometimes it takes some of the pressure off of you to be the prince. You don't have to be the king always. You can be the king of your home. You can be king for your lady. But sometimes I need you just to be the prince. Learn how to serve God. Learn how to have a relationship with him. You heard our panel earlier talk about what it means to live as a godly man. You heard our young men talk about what it means to be a young father, to be encouraged even when their fathers weren't around. I see a lot of men who have lost confidence, who have lost their way, and it's really sad to me. I speak a lot on fatherlessness, which means when there's a father absence, whether he's in the military, whether he's passed away, or whether he was just never a part of your life. And I know that can leave a void, that can leave a hole in your heart, in your soul. And you heard our young men talk about how it's not easy, walking in that journey, trying to find yourself. But I want you to know that it's doable. I want you to know that there is more out there for you, that you don't have to live up to the stereotypes. There's more to life in your career, more to life for relationships, that your image of what it means to be a man is not all that it's cracked up to be. Those things that some of you have on your mind, money, power, respect to women, we'll just talk about those few things. You don't get that in some of those ways. I want all men to hear me. Money, power, and respect. It really comes when you find your passion, find something that you love to do. It comes when you are a good person, you have character. Have character on your job. People notice that. When you are a good husband, people notice that. Not running after other women, but running after your woman's heart. When you are a good father, being there for your kids. I hear so many men say, well, my father wasn't there for me. Well, maybe he wasn't. But now that you have kids, let's talk about how you can be a part of their life. Don't do the same things that your father did to you. Let's break that cycle. But please, I beg of you to create a relationship with God so that he can teach you how to be the man that he's created you to be. I promise you that everything else will fall into place. God bless you. We love you. Stay tuned. We have community resources for you next. And now we're going to have our community resources. Is there anything that you would like to offer as a resource to men in general as we wrap up the show?
Well, there's a lot of different programs at the YMCA that offer strengthening family programs. Too Good for Drugs.
Strengthening families and Too Good for Drugs. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brandon, for being on the show. And Mr. Cedric Garrett, is there anything you'd like to add or anything you would like to tell the audience about your photography business?
Yes, I started photography when I had my son 2 years later, just so I could capture all the moments that he would have. And I enjoy it because I'm able to just capture happiness and people at their strongest moments.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'm Pastor Sylvester Silver. I pastor the Gates of Heaven Church of God in Christ in the city of Suffolk, 112 Beach Street. We have a ministry for young men of valor. We meet every other Wednesday night, and we do men things.
Pastor Ray Johnson.
Yep, I'm Pastor Ray Johnson, Senior Pastor at Calvary Revival Church on the Peninsula. And our ministry is located 119 29th Street in the city of Newport News. And that's our south. Our east is 324 Newport News Avenue in the city of Hampton. Our website, www.crcpeninsula.org. If you'd like to reach out to us by phone, that's 757-245-1747. We created something called Dominion Man. Mm-hmm. Dominion Man meets every first Wednesday night of every month. It has an annual conference that comes along with it. We gather together on Saturdays, but that primary first Wednesday night is just all men together. Curriculum-based study information is provided, and men learn how to develop, how to grow, and how to serve.
Your homework assignment is to rewrite your destiny. For that, men, I want you to figure out what it means to be the man that you want to be. What kind of father do you want to be? What kind of worker will you be? What work ethic will you take into the workplace? Will people be able to see that? I want you to decide that. Whether you had a father in your life or no father in your life, whether your mother treated you bad, whether your grandfather was there, your grandmother wasn't there, it is up to you to decide what kind of man that you will be. Thank you so much for joining us for It's Life Changing. We'll see you next time. God bless you.